Hi, welcome to Best in Fest. I'm Leslie Lepage, the director of the La Femme International Film Festival, and this is a podcast for people who are interested in advancing their career in TV and film and learning all the little dirty secrets of Hollywood. And my gosh, there is a lot of dirty little secrets of Hollywood. And today, I'm so happy to have this wonderful filmmaker called Desiree Staples on board, telling us about how she's navigated her career through the festival circuit and what's really happening now, post-COVID and post some of her successes in the festival circuit. She's a seasoned producer, filmmaker, and actress, multi-hyphenate, because us women, we've got to be multi-hyphenates. All the hats, because we've got to do it better than the guys. And that's what I think people forget. We have to do it better than the guys. Listen, you've produced Circus Person, which premiered at Tribeca Now, and you've also taken your feature film Take Me To Tarzana, which is super funny. It has been distributed by Gravitas, which is a distribution company here in Los Angeles, starring Jonathan Bennett and Maria Conchita Alonso, one of my favorite persons and someone we had honored at La Femme, Samantha Robertson and Andrew Carrier and Oliver Cooper. And then you also did a comedy pilot called The Influencers, which you created and you also starred in, and that was kind of cool.
And that was at La Femme.
That was at La Femme.
Before COVID.
Maybe it was 3 years ago, but it was pre-COVID. This is crazy that we're saying everything is like post and pre-COVID because this has changed, right? The planet. Anyways, welcome, and let's talk about all these crazy projects and how you started working the festival circuit and where your career is now.
Yeah, so I will say, I originally came to LA. I did theater my whole life. I went to Northwestern. I was a theater girl through and through, then started doing improv. And then once I discovered film and TV, because they don't tell you in theater school that you can do film and TV, that it is an amazing art form. But now I think, this was a decade ago. But anyway, when you're just beginning, and especially as a young woman in an oversaturated market, I think you need to create your own content to kind of figure out your creative voice, right? But now what I'm doing is yes, Take Me to Tarzana was released. Check that out in February of 2021. And so we've been doing the festival circuit for that. And also that's on Apple, it's on Mobi, it's on YouTube, it's anywhere you can buy movies, you can see Take Me to Tarzana, so make sure to check that out. And then I have another short called It's What She Would Have Wanted that I created with my a fellow Northwestern peer, Nate Trinrud, who's brilliant. He's a Berlinale alum. And we took that, another female-driven piece that I also act in, about these girls that make a pact in middle school or elementary school that if any of them were to go missing or something happened to them, that they'd go into their childhood home and remove anything incriminating from their parents finding out, like drugs or inappropriate videos or, who knows, dildos do appear, if that's allowed to say. Anyway.
That's a naughty in a parent's house, no dildos in a parent's house.
No dildos allowed. Actually, two things I've done now have those involved. But so we took that on the festival circuit, and that's gone to LA Shorts, Mill Valley, St. Louis International Film Festival, Catalyst Content, and that's all been during COVID, which is, I think, a fascinating time to be on a virtual festival circuit that we're looking to create a feature version or a series version of, because it's a 13-minute proof of concept. And then I'm also working on a film I'm very excited about that I'm executive producing and starring in called My Divorce Party that you can check out. We're fundraising right now on the platform WeFunder, which is equity crowdfunding, which is really cool because people can invest in it, right? Versus just like GoFundMe, Kickstarter, where you're just putting money in and saying sayonara. You're committed and invested. And that one we're shooting this fall. About a gal who gets divorced and has a party with her girlfriends, but doesn't tell them she's bringing her settlement money to the party so that her ex gets nothing on Monday. So she wants to burn it all, and they go, that's not a great life choice. So very bridesmaids meets girls trip meets rough night, girl power healing and behaving badly, because I think that's
behaving badly. Well, girls do behave badly every once in a while, especially when you get a bunch of them.
Exactly. And no movies talk about that because it's still like taboo for women to do anything that's, oh, I don't know, like inappropriate.
Yeah, which is why I think it's interesting, because we haven't seen that.
And why movies like Trainwreck with Amy Schumer that I loved and Bridesmaids, I think, are some of the most successful movies of all time, because people are going into this genre and this not allowed taboo area. That still, though, is not seen enough. So very excited.
Let's talk about the current. You crowdfunded for some of these others, correct? And so the difference between crowdfunding and what you're funding now is an equity ask. Can we talk about that? Because some filmmakers don't understand that once you start having a following through the crowdfunding, you can possibly switch that over. And really, what does that look like?
Actually, we'll say the influencers, me and my co-writer and producer, we just self-funded. We got all of our private friends together and just were like, okay, we're going to make this for X amount of money and split it. But the difference between regular crowdfunding, which you see, and those budgets, I will say, are usually what you're raising are like, I'd say on the high side is $20,000. If you see a Kickstarter or Indiegogo with $20,000, that's a tough goal. That's a lot of work. And it's usually just your network. It's usually people that love you that are doing it. But yes, it's a great jumping off point of, hey, if you can get $20,000 and make something at the level, like a proof of concept pilot or short that does really well and gets in somewhere like La Femme, gets into these bigger festivals, then you have a track record of, hey, now I want to do the feature. Now I want to do my calling card of what I want to be as an artist and my creative voice. And instead of $20,000, $200,000, right? Yeah. And the difference between the two is equity crowdfunding is you are getting investors involved in your project. And so thus, like our terms for My Divorce Party is anyone that invests, whether it's $100 or $1,000 or $10,000, gets 110% of the principal of their investment and a split of the net profits, 50-50 between the investors and the producers.
Nice. That's a real generous, split on this. Yeah,
exactly.
And you're using the short as your proof of concept with the success of the wins in the festival circuit to say, hey, listen, this is the success we've had off of this. This is why you need to invest.
Exactly. And we do have, we have a team now that me and Sam Fox, who both were producers on Circus Person, we're a known team. We work together a lot, and we have the credentials now, and we know what we're doing enough, and, are passionate about this movie. It's like, hey, we've done well with the short. Let's see what we can do with 5 times the amount of money.
Right. Yeah. Right. Because your ask is, so what's your ask? 200,000?
Yeah, our total budget is going to be 250, and we have some outside investors as well. So raising on the actual platform, will be around 250K,
which is a nice sizable budget. You can do something, very decent with that, especially depending on where you're shooting. So let's go back to, working the festival circuit. I think you're really very good at that as a filmmaker / businesswoman, whereas some filmmakers don't quite know how to navigate working that festival circuit to spin it in to something larger. Can we talk about one of your success stories on, utilizing that?
Well, I will say, what is very crazy. My biggest one was, and I do recommend this, you can go to a film festival even if you don't have a film there.
Yes.
Yeah, and just to meet people and see the films, and because every film festival in La Femme as well, everyone has their own niche, everyone has their own style, and that's what's always really interesting is things you see at La Femme are different than things you see at South by Southwest, which I know South by Southwest is usually really quirky, sometimes some edgier stuff. Same with Tribeca, like they're gonna have a totally different style than Slam Dance, Sundance, Hollywood Real Independent Film Festival, like all these, they all have different vibes. So anyway, I try to go to Sundance every year, and a lot of schools, Northwestern has a meetup that we do there. A lot of schools do that. And I just went, actually, from my Chicago roots, I went to a Chicago filmmaking event that crossed over with, I think, a Screencraft, one of the competition events at the same bar. And the director of Take Me to Tarzana at the time, I did not know, and me and him started talking, and within a month I was a producer on the film. So it was really, I will say, being open to just talking about your projects. And I told him, I'm like, hey, here's my thing. I'm an actress primarily, but I have this interesting spin of I also am a businesswoman, so I'm a producer, actress, filmmaker. And yes, whether it's a supporting role or a lead role, and what I think I have the smarts that some actors need help with as well, you're not right for every movie, and you're not right for every role.
That's right. And even if you're jumping on as a producer, actress, whatever, on this project, they all want to be leads. And I'm like, darling, that's not necessarily the wise choice for this.
No, and that's where you have to leave your ego at the door and know where your strengths are. Because yeah, Take Me to Tarzana, who I played in Take Me to Tarzana is hilarious, and she's a villain and she's a supporting role. But me being the lead wouldn't have made sense because she needed, anyway, everyone has different strengths as an actor, and usually mine are in the comedic, shameless best friend that gets everybody into trouble and very sarcastic. But that's not right. Like, I should not be in Tomb Raider. I'm not, I'm not an action superstar.
Come on.
As of yet. But, and that's for writing too and directing. You gotta, it's a difficult conversation to have with people sometimes because you do need to get in the door with what you're naturally good at, especially as an actor. All of it, because it's yourself. It's your truest self is what's going to get you in. And we see that over and over again. Like actors or actresses like Reese Witherspoon. She plays herself in most things, and it's brilliant. Anyway, so all to say, me and Maceo, I was talking about the influencers at the time, and then I was producing, and how many film festivals I had gone to along with LFM. And he was talking about his script, and I was like, yeah, send it over. And I think that's big too, of like, some people might be like, oh, I don't know, like, should I give this person my email? Like, yes, because you never know. And he sent it, and it was hysterical. And immediately I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to work on this in some capacity. And also props to Maceo, I'll give him credit too, like very bold to, meet someone and trusting too of like, okay, this girl sounds like she knows what she's talking about. Then he did his research afterwards. It was like, oh, she's a serious producer, legit, which is important. I think that is important. Do your research after. But shoot your shot, and send that script over. What can you lose? And quick. Like, he was on it, I think, that evening. And then within the month, I was producing and acting in the film. So I think, being open,
That's a huge success story, and you really focused in on a couple of things that I like to say, which is if you don't have a film at a film festival, go to the film festival, because it's a networking opportunity for you to meet other people who are like-minded, and a partnership may occur like it did with you, which is frequently what happens. It's not necessarily that you, oh my gosh, meet that one financier that's going to give you $1 bazillion and say, here's your money for the next slate of films. You're meeting other partners in crime to go off and make your stuff. But then really also you're very, very smart in that you know your pocket and your strengths. And so you've identified that. And so you can play within those pockets and strengths without letting that mind and ego get in the way of your success, which is a really nice combination. And I wish more filmmakers, actor, producers, had that ability.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So you went off and did this, and now it's produced, and now you're working the festival circuit. So how did you navigate that festival circuit? What's your approach when you're attacking where you're getting it out? And I'm assuming that you're also utilizing that festival circuit to get distribution, get eyeballs on it for funding.
So you're asking how we chose where
but how you chose, and did you do social media? Did you do a social media push every time you landed in a festival? How did you navigate that?
Yeah, we have. So I'll talk both about Take Me to Tarzana and It's What She Would Have Wanted because they've been like two-pronged at the same time. And I will say Take Me to Tarzana, once again, Maceo Greenberg, who's a genius, follow him, has been running the Take Me to Tarzana campaign, which if you follow Take Me to Tarzana film, check that out because it's very well done. And both are cool to see because they're totally different aesthetics. I will say first, the festivals we chose, which I thought was really smart for Tarzana, is the local approach as well because, right, the film is called Take Me to Tarzana. So we thought it was really important to have an LA run, an LA circuit. So we were at the Valley Film Festival. We were one of the opening night features there. Same with NoHo Cinefest. That was really important to us to like build community. And then same with It's What She Would Have Wanted, which was interesting because it's both, which I think this is interesting to listeners. It is a short, but it's also really a pilot. It's a proof of concept pilot. So that's where I structured and strategized of, okay, what are the festivals that have the best rate of series? Because I really want, because there's so many shorts, you know, and not that that's a bad thing, but I think series is kind of a new frontier and just requires a different sensibility. So I was like, okay, let's go there. And that's how we ended up. I think St. Louis and Mill Valley were in the episodic portion, but you can do both. You can also submit, because some don't have the episodic. So you can do both. And Catalyst, we love, like that's such a great organization. And Catalyst is really interesting because they're not just a festival, they're actually a program. And you work with them for months or years to come if you want to. And so that was really cool. And yeah, each time we got into a festival, we did a social media push, and especially with It's What She Would Have Wanted. Both pieces are very female focused, but you know, we also, It's What She Would Have Wanted is entirely female cast, top to bottom, writer, producers. So we also went there, and with also female driven festivals. And then would Take Me to Tarzana. Those were our strategies with both of those.
So I'm going to ask you a question, which filmmakers don't often understand. Your film you're dating a film festival. Like your film is dating a film festival. And if you misdate it, right, you date somebody that it wouldn't really date well with, you're not going to get in, you know? And so you were very focused saying, okay, this has female content. So I'm going to focus in on those types of film festivals. This has an LA kind of standing. I'm going to focus in on those kind of film festivals. And then did that have a higher, because you were focused. So the question is, did it have a higher rate of success on being selected than just throwing it out there like bubble gum up against the wall?
Yes, the answer is yes. Because what I did learn with the influencers, which was my first go, and we got very lucky with getting into La Femme and some Hollywood Real Independent Film Festival, some amazing Santa Monica Web Fest, so many great festivals. But I was kind of that first time like, let's just see what sticks. I'm guilty of that. I was like, let's throw it everywhere. And what you have to realize too, and I'm sure you've talked about this, Leslie, is that your premiere is really important. So if you're showcasing for the first time, let's say in the Northeast, that has nothing to do with the topic that you're doing, you might be losing a huge opportunity. Like it was great with Take Me to Tarzana. We had a drive-in premiere in Tarzana with some of our cast, with the team, and filled the place up. But if we lost our premiere status by doing it somewhere that was unfocused and didn't really have a big draw or distributors or sales agents, you lose a huge opportunity of a festival and a premiere that really the stars can align and you can find a sales agent and you can find a distributor.
Right. Well, now let's talk about that. So now you've had some successes. You've focused and you've had your premiere. You're now in the festival circuit. You've had some successes on this. Now you're thinking, okay, how do I get a distributor attached? So what was your approach? Did you hire a sales rep? Uh-huh. Yeah. What did you do?
So I'm trying to think of what festival it was. And this just shows you that you never know and why it is important. You know, even when you get a rejection or even when you get a wait list or deferment or whatever it is, take those slight wins home, take them and print them out and frame them, because I'll think on which festival it was, but we met our sales rep from a festival. He was a judge of a festival we didn't get into for Take Me to Tarzana.
Right. Interesting.
And he reached out to us. It was Glenn Reynolds at Circus Road Pictures. And we went from there. But that just shows you, maybe it's good I don't know the festival, but just shows you that you never know that for him, and that's with Tarzana too, like it's a dark comedy. It's a stoner comedy. It's in that same Big Lebowski kind of vibe. And he was like, oh, this is great for me to represent. And then and it's a fascinating experience from there, but highly recommend sales agents. I think you gotta have some, at least for us, and I think it was Maceo's first distribution as well for a major motion picture, and you've got to have someone, because there aren't, and maybe you've mentioned this too, there are distributors you have to watch out for.
Distributors come in all ranges. Yeah. And there are good ones and there are bad ones and there are in-between ones. So, okay, so now let's talk about this. This was a new experience for your co-producer on this, right? So how did you work through that distribution model? Did you have the sales agent cut the deal for you? Were you intricately involved in cutting that deal? What were your percentages? What did that look and feel when you were in the motion of negotiation?
Yeah, I don't, because Kevin and Maceo and Kevin Harding, our producer, is also a genius and very experienced. This was my first time, so I kind of let them take the reins, in terms of, I don't have all the percentages offhand or anything like that. But I do remember we did talk about worldwide rights versus U.S. rights. We did talk about theatrical screenings, which was tough to navigate with COVID, and because we were originally supposed to premiere in the fall. So, but that was really interesting. I think we had said we wanted 3 cities, that we definitely wanted to premiere in person in 3 cities, because that would have given us LA, Chicago, New York, and a certain amount of theatrical screenings. I forget how many that was. But the biggest thing for us was worldwide rights, because Gravitas has a great international department as well. And we were like, and so we were discussing whether we want to do that, and then we did. But Glenn really did take care of a lot of it for us. And I will say, what I do recall at the time is really going to my other filmmaker friends. I had another friend who had just sold a film or distributing it from Slamdance, where he went. And I was like, hey, does this sound right to you? Do these percentages look right to you? And he was like, yeah. And make sure to, discuss worldwide versus U.S. rights and all that jazz.
So you did actually roll in theatrical, because most of the time right now, the distribution companies may want theatrical, roll it into the contract, that is, but then never do it. So you chose to actually have that rolled in to the contract. And did they actually do a theatrical mini run in, what'd you say, LA, Chicago, New York?
I don't think we have yet, because of COVID. That our whole negotiation went down when it was pre-COVID, so that's also fascinating too. I don't know how that's going to work, but so we haven't yet. But I have no doubt. Well, and although we did do the Tarzana one, so I think we'll be doing the 2 when the world allows us to have theatrical screenings again.
When it opens back up again. Yeah. So interesting, because I usually recommend, especially post-COVID, that when you're going into a distribution deal, that you hold back theatrical rights, because most often the distribution companies really are not going to do a theatrical run for you. And you can accomplish a theatrical run better, especially now, because there is a lack of content out there post-COVID. These theaters are, hungry to show good quality films. So for those that are listening in, that might be something to consider when you're negotiating that distribution contract, etc. Okay, so now that you've got this first thing, it's under your belt, it's now out everywhere, you're happy, and you're in the middle of, right? Yes. And you're in the middle of funding and using this proof of concept for the next feature. How would you do it differently than before? Like, what have you learned? How would you apply these learning lessons?
Yes. So A lot we did really well, which I have to give Tarzana's team credit again. And then also, I got the name wrong, so I want to correct it. Circus Road Films with Glenn Reynolds. Glenn
There you go.
Reynolds, Circus Road Films. So shout out
Circus
to Glenn.
Road.
He's brilliant.
There, shout out, Glenn.
We did a lot well. What was hysterical is we had an ultra low budget, which they did just raise that cap to 300K now versus it used to be 250. And what's funny, we always laugh about this. We had children in Take Me to Tarzana, only for like 2 scenes, but we had children, which are expensive after the teachers and all that jazz. We had animals. We had a monkey for 2 days, which was insane. And who knew the rules of how much a monkey can perform was much more strict than any of our star talent.
That's funny. I've never worked with a monkey, so what are those rules?
Those rules, as I recall, they can't work more than 6 hours on set period, I believe. You have to have a wrangler, of course. You have to have the trainer. You have to have the Humane Society there, which you have to have for any animal to get that, no animals were harmed, which is amazing. Actually, there's another film, Circus Person, we had a fish. And because of Tarzana, I was like, we gotta have the Humane Society there. And so we had literally someone on set for 3 days making sure the fish was taken
The fish
care
was fine?
The betta fish.
Oh my God.
But it's good. It's good. And but it was so funny. And then the monkey again, because they're not nocturnal, right? So they have to be in bed by like sundown, like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m.
so you had a curfew on the monkey.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like
awesome.
non-negotiable. So we're trying to figure out the monkey schedule with like our star schedule, and it was absurd. I was like, this monkey is getting all the preferential treatment. Get the monkey out first. Anyways, but really expensive things for a $250,000 movie. So, and a car chase. So I will say, like, there's another great indie movie out right now called Shiva Baby that's blowing up. And that was all one location. So I would say, and with this time, mostly my divorce party takes place in Joshua Tree, outside. No animals yet, no children, and it's an ensemble cast of 5. So it's really these like 5 gals.
So you're containing it more. You're doing a more containable, like one location, limiting the extra stress of children, animals, etc. Right?
Right. That's just like, it's just a money suck of like high production value, but right. And for Tarzana, it's different. Like Tarzana, it was perfect because it was this like wild ride. But
right.
Sure, if you can instead have $40,000 that went to cars, monkeys, and animals and children go to a star talent that then is going to give you better distribution possibilities because you're paying, that kind of money for a star on the film. Maybe that's just less stress for the producers and being one. I feel they're paying. I'm trying to think what else. No, because it was important. And for this one too, we want to keep the budget below the SAG maximum so that we have the best, especially because we have investors involved with both projects, of getting a return on the investment. So the more I can keep the budget 300K and below.
And that ultra low budget, yeah. ULB, yeah.
It's a lot better odds that I'm going to sell the movie for over $500,000 and then all my investors are happy versus I think that's the one thing I've seen on some of these equity crowdfunding platforms with people raising sometimes $700,000, sometimes $1 million. But if you're having a movie that's $1 million, like you got to have an A-list or high B-list celebrity to sell that film for over $1 million. It's just a higher... It's tougher to get the investment back, I think.
Yeah, that's a key thing for anyone listening in. And what she's talking about is you've got a return on investment, an ROI, that you have to look at. Once you hit a certain budget level, like in that $1 million, you have to have an A-lister in order to justify that gross sales once the distributor is selling it to networks, SVOD platforms, other platforms. So if you can keep your budget in that ultra low budget, which is a ULB contract, SAG contract, that has a 300,000 cap. So if you can keep it underneath that, like 250, 275, the likelihood of you making money when you sell to distribution is higher. And if you can bring in money, then your investors are super, super, super happy because they will come back again and do it again with you, right? If you don't pay them back, then you're unliked and they will never come back to you again.
Yeah, it's like anything else. It's building trust, right? And that, I think, is the goal. Is what's amazing, and has made me a smarter filmmaker and a smarter actress and a smarter producer. Is having these people that rely on me and trust me. And it's like, if I can do this film for under 300, make their money back, then why wouldn't they want to give me then 750 for the next tier? And now that I know what I'm doing, and you only get better and better once you learn more and more connections and more distributors and more sales agents, and go, okay, here's the like this. You have a good track record, 100%. But if you're going out of the gate, and I've seen it sometimes, raising $1 million, and you do, that's a little scary because to investors and to the whole project, because you don't know. I think it takes a feature or two to go, oh, this is the star kind of level I need and the story I need. And that's important too. Like the fact we cast Jonathan, who is hysterical. Like if you haven't seen Take Me to Tarzana, see it alone for Jonathan Bennett. He is hysterical in it. But finding the right actor for the right tone is also a huge risk. Of even if you have an A-list actor or B-list actor, it's got to be the right role for them. Once again, going back to like knowing what your strengths are. And if it's not the right tone or not the right fit, then it's not going to be a great movie. And then it's important that the story in the movie is good.
Yeah, well, it especially in the independent, circuit, you've got to have a good, strong story, something that's going to sell, and then everything else on top of that is the foundation, right? The story is the foundation. Everything on top of it adds to it. Great. What advice would you give to a young filmmaker that's maybe making their first project that you wish somebody had told you? Now, after going through the distribution, after going through the festival circuit, really fine-tuning and learning.
Yeah, really, really great questions, Leslie. These are amazing questions. For me personally, I think what is important is knowing how many hats to have and knowing when to stop putting on hats and how many hyphenates to hyphenate. Like, I now know producing and acting works really well for me because I can produce up to a certain point, and my divorce party producers have been so incredible with this. They're like, Desiree, come, because we're shooting in the fall, like come early fall, well, you're off the emails, and they know that I'm someone that's going to be trying because in my I can't help it, the control, passion, that side of me. But it's like people that and that's their job, to keep me in check of like, you're an actor now, and that's what was important to me, both in the influencers that I learned on set there and with it's what you would have wanted, that like you can't be a producer at the same time as an actor. And I have to totally change my gears and go, what's most important is me giving a good performance right now. Not wondering whether Crafty is going to be on time or whatever is fires are being put out. But it's hard to shift that. So having if you are someone that's a writer, producer, director, bringing on some producers that can support you, even if it's just for the on-set days, I think is huge.
That's really great advice, by the way. That's really super great, because a lot of these independents will want to do all of the hyphenates, and you can't do all of the hyphenates. At some point, you have to focus in on the main hyphenate.
Yes. Well, and that's the second part of it, is like, find what you really want to do and lead with that, because what is interesting on the festival circuit is it's the director is the highest billing, right? And like the director, I think, is most important and has the most to gain from a big win. Like, because that's the thing. When you get a winner, you get a finalist in a short, the director is the one that's getting the clout to then make the next thing. Like, it really helps directors get to the next stage, and director writers. So if you're a writer producer, I would really focus in on the writing in the film festival circuit, because in these competitions, because it's going to take you to the next place, versus, which I don't know, maybe we should change this, that like producers, I don't feel like get a ton out of film festivals.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, we do and we don't. I mean, if you're winning the best picture, yes, that's kind of a producer's award with the filmmaker. But yeah, they don't have just a standout, here's your producing award.
Right. So we should change that.
We should change that.
But yeah, if you're a director, writer, actor, directing is going to be the biggest thing. Like, I think the biggest thing to gain from film festivals. So make sure the direction is exquisite. And
right.
and if it's and maybe you don't cast yourself in this role, and make sure the film is as good as it gets, and find that role that's really what you're most excited about and go with it.
Right. Well, last question is, tell me a dirty little secret of Hollywood that you wish somebody would have told you. You know, a dirty little secret.
So everyone always says this is success, or like mainstream notoriety is luck, and luck gets you in the door. And I think it does. I think a lot of it is being at the right place at the right time, more than anyone cares to admit. Once again, the story I told with Maceo. I remember I wasn't going to go to that party that day because I had altitude sickness. I wouldn't have done this film that like changed my life. So it is so much this right time in the right place. And then it's the Duplass brothers, right? Am I saying them correctly? Mark Duplass and okay.
Yeah.
They had a panel that I was an audience member of, and I thought it was brilliant. So they're all saying, "How do we get in a festival? How does my movie get in?" And they said, "Make a better movie."
Right.
And I loved that, because as much like all you hear is, "Oh, can you send my script to so and so," and blah blah blah. That is, I think, half of it. But you also have to have something exquisite. And people lose sight of like making good work sometimes for like who they know and what relationships they have. They forget how important it is to have an incredible, authentic piece of art. Like, that is how their first film at Sundance, that's the famous, voice recording one, unlike that they made for $5 or whatever it was. That was unheard of. So you have to be extraordinary and at the right place at the right time. But I think a lot of people don't want to do the work sometimes, and that's what I love. That there's no secret to getting in except for creating something unbelievable, which is really freaking hard.
It is really hard, because you have to really know your craft, and that's where people just don't know their craft, so they have to really become experts in that genre and filmmaking itself. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for coming on and giving the advice and just chatting with us. And for all those that want to submit their film to this year's film festival, go to Film Freeway and search on La Femme International Film Festival, because we are in the midst of our call for entries. The podcast video will be posted on La Femme International Film Festival YouTube channel. So La Femme Film Fest at YouTube. And, Instagram us, like us on Twitter, and make sure you say you love Best in Fest, as this will be on iTunes and all the other platforms that you will listen to on podcasts. Thank you to our wonderful, wonderful guest, Desiree Staples. I want to just do a shout out to you again for jumping on board and talking to us and giving us your expertise.
Well, thank you, Leslie and Best in Fest for having me. And I've been a fan of La Femme for quite a while. Especially, it really aligns with my purpose and my commitment in the arts of more women on all sides of the camera and all capacities, and underrepresented artists of all kinds just getting their stories heard. So thank you for having this incredible festival, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And then you bring back your next film. I look forward to your next film.
Heck yes. Sounds like a plan.
All right.